Okay guys, so let's look at how to do this Mathspace. This is the last thing you need to be able to do for this unit. It says, what is the number I equal to? And if you remember in your notes, we talked about that I squared is equal to -1, right? And so what that means is if I want I by itself, right, the inverse of squared is square root, right? So this cancels out with that. And so I by itself is the square root of -1, right? The square root of -1 is I. That's how you get an I. So down here, we'll put the square root of -1 is what I is. All right, so I squared, remember that's what we started out with, I squared is -1. So to do this one, you just type this straight up into the calculator. So I'll open this up and I'm going to do right, I'll just put in here 9 plus the square root, right? That goes second and then the square button, and then minus as a -9. And so I get 9 plus 3i. 9 plus 3i. Right, because the square root of -1 gives me the I, and then the square root of 9 is 3. All right, so again, just type this into your calculator. Type this into the calculator. Oh, and then you end up with a decimal here, right? So if I do that, right, I'll do the square root of, square root of -75. And so I get this decimal, right? That's irrational. So what I have to do, remember, is you have to go to Desmos and do the 75 divided by x squared. So you can find the factors of 75, divided by x. I want to find the squares factors, okay? So I'm going to click on the gear and get the table here. Remember, I'm looking for positive, I'm looking for natural numbers, counting numbers, right, where I don't have a decimal over here. So I'll keep going, 4, 5. Oh, look, there we go. We've got some whole numbers here. So what this means is I've got 5 comes out and a radical 3 stays underneath. All right, so I've got a 5, and then I've got a square root of 3, and then arrow out because the I is not under the radical. 5 radical 3, that's your decimal, and then you have I. All right, because it's square root of a negative gives you the I. All right, and then we'll just type this in just like it is and get our answer. Type this in just like it is. Type that in. All right, now this one, we kind of skipped over these in class because we were short on time. But long story short is you just divide negative 35 divided by 5. All right, so I can combine these into one radical. So I can say that's negative 35 divided by negative 5. All right, and so if I put that into Desmos, let's see what I get. Negative 35 divided by negative 5. All right, and so that gives me 7, right? And so if I take the square root of 7, I'm going to get a decimal. But notice there's no factor. The only 7's prime. The only factors of 7 are 1 and 7. So there's no perfect square in there. So I can just say that this is going to be the square root of 7. All right, so you just divide those, combine that into one radical. All right, and then now just type this into your calculator. Type this into your calculator. Go ahead and type this in. All right, go ahead and type this in. Go ahead and type this in. Again, just type that in. All right, now look, I have a high power here. So if I just type it in, if I do 10, and then I put the, let me clear it so it's not all that stuff. So if I put in a 10, and then I do the I, so second, decimal, and then I do to the 11th power. All right, notice I get this 10 to the negative 12th power, which is basically 0. So 0 minus 10i is just negative 10i. If you don't like that, you can do math, go over to num, and then go to the I part, right? The third one, math num 3. And then you put the 10i to the 11th power. And it'll just give you the imaginary part of your complex number. All right, and so you get negative 10i. All right, and again, just type that in. All right, do the math num 3 so that you get a nice answer there. Again, high power, so do math num 3. And then do math num 3. And that's it. All right, good job, as always, and good luck. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.